George Russ, Vice Chair and Regional Representative for us.
Going around the table to our right, your left.
And I am Laura Green, and I represent Fusion Action Ontario.
I'm Jessica Nicholas. I'm the alternate for the Association for Bright Children of Ontario.
Good evening, everyone. Mandy Palmer, Executive Superintendent for Special Education Programs and Equitable Development.
Great. Okay. Anyone else?
Good evening, Stacy Zucker, Interim Director of Education.
Hey, Stacy. Afterwards, I'd love to get a chance to just chat with you if you have time before you rush out. Hi, everybody. Let's dig in. First, let's do the land acknowledgement. I'm going to ask our Vice Chair, Jordan, to lead us in the land acknowledgement. If we get that up on the PowerPoint, that would be very helpful. And for those who are able, if we would stand.
We acknowledge we live on the lands of the Mississauga, of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and when that, we also recognize the enduring presence of First Nations.
Thank you. First order of business is to approve the agenda, which has a number of items, but they all, I'm hoping, will be relatively shorter, though if any require more time, we'll take that time and then just bump things over to our next agenda meeting. So could we have a motion from someone to approve the agenda? Jessica, we have a seconder. Anyone? Sorry? Yeah, thank you. Okay, all in favor of the agenda? We have a majority. I'm sorry. Can you give me a count, or do we have approval for the agenda?
A lot of people who haven't voted yet,
Okay.
but I have 7 online, plus whatever the number, so I would say that is yes.
Okay. Excellent. Anybody have a conflict of interest to declare for any matters on the agenda? So let us know. Has anybody identified themselves as? Nope. All right, let's proceed to approving minutes. We've got the meeting minutes for our January meeting and our February meeting. We will deal with them separately. At our last meeting, there were 2 areas of concern raised. Leanne has interacted with the folks who raised those concerns between meetings, and as I understand it, it's resolved. So could I get a motion to approve the minutes for our January meeting? Nora, do we have a seconder? All right, our Vice Chair is seconding. Is there any concerns left that anybody needs to raise, or can we proceed to a vote? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes for our January 2026 meeting, please raise your hand or indicate. Leanne, tell me if we're good.
Yes, we're good.
Okay, February minutes. I'm going to encourage everyone to support these minutes. We've had a disagreement with staff over the style of, or how much detail there is in minutes, but these minutes, by virtue of the fact that they are in no small part made up of the text of our motions, I think are a fair representation. That's just my view. You can have the same view or another one. Could we have a motion to approve the minutes for the February SEAC meeting? All right. Could we have a seconder? Richard. Thank you, Richard. Any concerns to raise, or could we proceed to a vote? No one's raising it, so all in favor of approving the February minutes? Please indicate. Can't we in if you need to? We ain't allowed to vote together.
So those are good to go?
All right, very good. Next, we're moving to the chair's report, which you all have. I want to alert you to a couple of things. You'll recall that the interim director of education here with us, Stacy Zucker, described the changes that the board had decided on at our January meeting to the special education review. We're going to talk about that review in minutes. I had asked for a copy of that document. The staff were not prepared to give it. I filed a freedom of information request. I received a letter on February 20th where the TDSB is refusing to disclose under the Freedom of Information Act. And my request had asked not only for what was in the document that was read, but the rest of it and so on. So I have now, and they invoked a couple of exemptions. I don't agree with the exemptions they invoked, but that doesn't matter here. I had written the Freedom of Information and Privacy Coordinator and said, could you reconsider my request by narrowing it to simply producing the very text that was read to us and nothing more. The exemptions they invoked at the time to preclude fulfilling my earlier wording, the broader wording of my request, which was not very broad, but which is broader than the way I narrowed it. The exemptions they invoke would be totally inapplicable to the text that was read aloud. It was made public to us. I did that today, late this afternoon, so I will keep you posted what I hear. The other thing I want to report to you on, at our last meeting, I proposed that a letter be sent to the Minister of Education from me on your behalf about concerns with the situation at TDSB for students with disabilities and special education needs since the trustees were removed and the new regime of a provincial supervisor was established. You gave me authority to do that by a motion of this committee, and my proposal was that it be copied to the education advisory committees of all the other school boards in Ontario. That is not an unusual thing to happen. We, from time to time, get copied on letters that the special education advisory committees write to the minister. So I wrote that letter. I sent it to you all by email, and it was to be in the mail today, I think, unless I failed to ask you that, Leanne. It's not, we can formally circulate it, but anyway, it's also up on the, I've circulated it more broadly, so it's available on not on the TDSB website, but on a website that I manage. But in any event, I have asked the staff to circulate this committee, or probably this letter on our behalf to the other special education advisory committees. Now, I had been told by the associate director, Louise Risco, months ago that the protocol or practice or policy is that the board will do that if it is a letter that SEAC sends to the minister and is copied to the other special education advisory committee. So I followed that practice. And I sent it to staff and asked if it could be sent out to the other special advisory committees. I received an email from the associate director saying that they won't, and that we exist to pass motions to advise or to give advice to the board. Of course, the contents of my letter reflect advice to the board and concerns about what is or is not happening as a result, in no small part. And I was told that I could send it to the other education advisory committees. Here's the problem, I've alerted staff already. I don't have a list of them. As I understand it, there isn't a list of them online. And if you take the time to try to go to 71 school boards online, so often you won't find them. And I know this because I talked to a volunteer who tried doing that. It takes a lot of time and it doesn't yield results. So we have wanted to copy this to all special education advisory committees, which is really an important way that we can learn from each other what's going on. We can share with each other. I got one chair of a special education advisory committee say they try to follow what we're doing because it's informative in what they're doing. If the board doesn't send it out, it won't get sent to them. It's a fact. I don't understand why. I appreciate it if staff could provide an explanation that we exist to advise the board, of course. That the board, staff on occasion encourage us to write the minister over the years. That's happened any number of times. I'm at a loss to understand why on earth their protocol, which I was told of, or practice, policy, is being disregarded here. But I would welcome it if, I don't know if the associate director's online for the meeting, or Nandy, if you can speak to it, if she isn't. But I would appreciate, or if Stacy Zucker can tell us, or if you'll go back and reconsider.
I am here, David, sorry to interrupt, just to let you know, I didn't interrupt you. It's Karen.
Well, if you could you explain this to me, and why staff is refusing to do this when I followed the very protocol that you explained to me some months ago?
Need to take myself off mute. Thanks very much, David. Good evening, everyone. I hope that you are well and stay warm today. David, I will say that I absolutely remember that conversation and has been past practice for TDSB and to be forwarding letters from SEAC, and we have seen other SEACs have correspondence shared, but we're a learning organization always, and when we continue to strengthen practice, how we do business, it's going back to core mandate. Similarly, our practice in regards to minutes, wanting to be closer aligned to what the policy and procedures say, and how to annotate minutes. The same is true for examining our practice to what the mandate as outlined in the Education Act. So when your request came through, we went back to the mandate of SEAC, and we're underscoring that your duty is to be providing advice to the board, and by all means, you have the ability to be writing to members, either directors or other SEACs, under your authority as chair, but that's not aligned to what SEAC's is and what staff's responsibility in providing resources is obligated to do. The answer or the response that you're hoping for, but that is the explanation. And happy to hear feedback from yourself. Yeah, I'm sure that there's going to be opinion sharing and know that we are listening. Thank you.
Well, I, for one, feel like the rules are being made up and changed, and enforcing protocols is a huge priority, except when someone wants to change it unilaterally, and then we find about it after we've relied on it in good faith. I don't think there's benefit in having a long discussion about this. I regret it, but I do want to ask, I understand I have a motion that I've prepared Leanne, you got a copy of it, and I'm wondering if you can put it up on the screen. And Jordan, I understand, is going to read it out and move the motion.
Really happy to. Just wait till it's on. Whereas on February 25th, 2026, Chair TSC Special Education Advisory Committee wrote a letter to the Minister of Education on behalf of SEAC in accordance with the motion which SEAC passed at February 9th, 2026 meeting. And whereas SEAC's letter states that it is copied to the chairs of the Special Education Advisory Committee of Ontario's other school boards. And whereas CDSB staff were asked to forward this letter to the chairs of Ontario's other SEACs. Whereas SEAC cannot itself forward that letter to Ontario's other SEAC chairs because the names and email addresses are not posted on. Whereas other SEACs have from time to time sent letters to the Minister of Education, which have been copied to all other SEACs, and these have been received by the TSB SEAC. And whereas the TSB Associate Director, Student and Equitable Outcomes has previously advised the TSB SEAC Chair that it is TSB protocol or practice, the TSB will copy a letter from SEAC to the Minister of Education. It states that it is copied to other Ontario SEACs, that it is done through the office of the TSB Director of Education. And whereas TSB's Associate Director, Student and Equitable Outcomes, has said that TSB will not forward this letter to Ontario's other SEACs, stating the material part that staff supports closely adhering to the mandate of SEAC, which is to provide advice to the board, or in this case, the supervisor. Whereas TSB is not accepting this change in protocol or any reason for it. Whereas the contents of SEAC's chair's February 25th, 2026 letter to the Minister of Education closely track the substantive content of earlier recommendations that SEAC has made to the board and or eventually appointed supervisor. And whereas TSB has repeatedly stated that it's committed to the principle of parents as partners, and whereas the effective TSB staff's refusal is to connect TSB February 25th, 2026 letter to Ontario's other SEAC. TSB's Special Education Advisory Committee therefore recommends that TSB comply with its previously communicated protocol, policy, or practice, and forward the SEAC Chair's February 25th, 2026 letter addressing Minister of Education to Ontario's 71 other special education.
And I just want to add one more thing. I'm going to open it after we get it to see if there's a seconder. But I just want to say that we were just told that it's a question, that in allocating staff resources. What staff resources? They have an email address for each of the directors of education. I'm sure that the director of education, I was told this is done through the director's office, so I'm expecting that the director of education's office could, in one email, which costs nothing, send it to all the other directors and say, could you please forward this to your CX? That's all it is. They've spent more time coming up with a rule against us than it would take to just do it. With that, do we have a seconder?
Sorry, David, if I missed this. Was this moved?
Sure. Oh, yeah. I moved it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I need to pay attention to that. Sorry about that.
Fair point.
I second it from,
Ronan. All right. Anybody want to speak to it?
I just would like to comment, overall that, being a part of SEAC is very important to me. But I'm concerned on how much time we are needing to go as organizations to do these things. I feel like we are not able to move forward with the TDSB. Every week or every time we have our meetings, we have to go back and advocate, and it's getting emotionally exhausting for us as advocates. It's mentally draining. I've brought this up again. It triggers PTSD and trauma for many of us who keep going back and forth, and I feel like the collaborative approach is completely lost. I really would like us to look into better ways of doing with this from the staff level, because we are trying the best we can to advocate for the communities we represent, and I feel like we're constantly being censored again, and it's very disheartening. That's all I want to say. I want to do real work and not have to keep doing these things.
Thanks, Anne?
Eric, I think I'm just having a hard time understanding this because, I'm new to SEAC, but as I understand, there were rules to application for students disabilities across the board, and of course, doing some collaboration with other SEAC is important to hear and understanding how things are processed and how things are done to best serve our needs. I'm just wondering why the board has such a narrow, limiting role of this youth, and other disciplines go above and beyond their roles, whether the key is such as teachers doing extracurricular activities. Why is the being limited to this narrow interpretation rather than the board working with us to enact change, to not only advocate for students, but for advocating for those who have to teach them, those who have to show up in the classroom, and those parents. So it seems like we're all working for the same goal, but not approaching perhaps the same way.
Thank you. Anyone else? The only other thing I can say is, and then we'll go to a vote, is if you add together what we're up against, won't send out emails to tell parents about our invitation for them to come and speak to our SEAC meeting for this bureaucratic, formalistic reason of it's just a regular SEAC meeting. It's a chance to be heard. And on it goes. It is frustrating. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand or otherwise indicate.
So I have 9 votes online, so that passes.
Right. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the status, it's listed as the status of the Eastdale High School and the grade 9 program there for next year. But this really is in many ways similar to the situation we spoke about last spring. I believe it was last May, about the Hayden High School. In Hayden last year, the board decided to not enroll anyone in grade 9 of that program. And it was suggested in this room by a number of people that this was an important program for students with disabilities and special education needs. And a worry that by not enrolling in grade 9, that was just the start of what was a progressive just shutting down the school over the next few years without an open discussion and a chance for parental input and so on. And of course, SEAC wasn't consulted on it before the decision was made. That was last spring, that's before there was a supervisor. I received word, and the media have covered, that the same thing is happening with the Eastdale High School, which grade 9 is not going to be offered next year. In grade 10, 9 and 10, I gather, will not be offered at the Hayden School. Staff can correct me if my understanding is wrong. So, and there's a letter in the materials for today's meeting that was forwarded to me to be raising serious concerns about this from the member of the legislature in that writing, the city councilor in that writing, and the person who was elected to serve as trustee before the appointment of the supervisor in that writing. So I've asked the staff if we could be told what the reasoning is underlying this. And since there's been public attention and concern about it, perhaps to address the concerns. And then I'll open it up to discussion or questions from members of the committee. I'll leave it to staff to decide who you prefer to speak to it.
Thanks, David. We do not have new information or different information than what has been communicated publicly about Eastdale. With regards to special education and inclusion and the work that we do, we open, close, move ISPs annually as part of our regular process based on number of students to create a class, an ISP in any given school. So that is not communicated every time we do that. It's a fluid process. It changes. As you know, we do have the ISP maps, location maps that are published in September. And if we do happen to open additional ISPs or any changes happen, we typically close ISPs within a school year. But for example, we will be opening some ISPs during the school year at the beginning of March. Those maps will be updated. So this is an operational piece that staff is responsible for, and we have never communicated that. The ISP specifically I'm speaking about, and we do work to maximize all of our, filling all of our existing ISPs before we look to open or create additional ISPs. So the numbers aren't there for a specific school. For this coming year, we wouldn't be opening it at that given school.
Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments they want to make? Jean-Paul? And then Nora. Okay, Jean-Paul, Jessica, and then Nora. And then Richard. Okay, you say it. That's fair. No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Sorry, I have my hand up, from the previous agenda item. May I go back?
Which the
Your report.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Oh, you got something you were wanting to raise about that? Sure, go ahead. Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. I think that is, it was regarding the first letter that you sent to send the minister about live streaming. And the answer that we received from the ministry. I think that is, I read, thanks for sharing the answer you received, with us. I think that is, I don't want to be big, but I don't think it was not respectful from the ministry side. To having someone with director of finance, to respond back to a letter about that stream. And I don't know if you probably didn't have a chance to look closely, that later. And in calling us a school board, a school council, that is really not even knowing what is SEAC. If someone SEAC, writing the minister and you respond, and you're calling SEAC that is a school council. I think that is, it means that, that is, he didn't even take time to read to understand exactly, to know who wrote the minister and what was really. I think that's something that I really want to suggest that, I don't know whether we follow the sent to the minister, saying that unfortunately unity, we are under the impression that the unity exactly, there was confusion. I would say that we like confusion about, the person who said it.
All right, Jean-Paul, thank you very much. Sorry, who was next? Jessica.
Thanks, David. I just wanted to say that we often hear that decisions are operational. Unfortunately, when we are under supervision and trustees are no longer available for folks have concerns, SEAC is the place that people reach out to. It isn't respectful to members of SEAC that we are finding out about closures of special education ISPs, the media, parents. It is part of our role to hear from folks, and we cannot respond appropriately if we don't know what's going on. Our role is consultation or information, and I would respectfully ask that staff have some respect for SEAC and actually inform us of what's going on. Because in addition to the two that David has mentioned, I'm aware of like gifted ISPs being closed for grade 9 admission. I don't know if there are others, but I think that as members of SEAC, we should be aware of the changes that are being made.
Nora.
Thanks. I think to play on what Jessica's already started, to sort of say a congregated site, or what almost is functioning like a congregated site, minus 36 kids, is like an ISP and moving a single ISP. You actually have entire sections of special education plan that refer specifically to congregated sites. It sounds particularly like this school is almost a congregated site. So really, staff have control about what the demand is for that location or not. So to sort of act like nobody signed up to go to that school, either there's nobody geographically there this year, okay, but then once to say that's not going to be true for another year. Now, I'm only, and from my standpoint, my organization isn't here about congregated sites or ISPs, because that's not what our organization is about. We're about inclusion. But to do inclusion without informing community is not what we're about. So if you're moving huge portions of the population, you would do a part, you do a program area review, and I see in your own policy that special education is excluded from that. But that seems pretty oppressive about excluding vulnerable people from having an opportunity to participate as a community, to share their experience and what their needs. So while I may not agree with that structure, and my organization doesn't, we certainly would never say don't collaborate with families or plan with them. And so I guess I'd like to hear, in the new ISPs, are they going to be able to be offered the exact same course selection and programs that the kids are currently receiving these days?
Thanks, Nora. So to be clear, I just want to clarify that students in an ISP, whether at Eastdale or anywhere else, who would have been going into an ISP, but there aren't enough of them, they would be placed in an ISP elsewhere and would actually be receiving richer, I would say, programming, because there are more students and more programs at those other schools.
So we've got the collaboration with the families, so families would be informed.
Yeah, that is all done through our regular process as we would for anything. Absolutely. Families are a part of those conversations.
If I may, choosing the location for ISPs includes many variables. Looking at a student's geography, IPRC decisions, locations of other classes, enrollment of those other classes. So our, again, based on SEAC's recommendation and partnership with us, that's how we created the ISP map. So it is really not possible for us to be ISP locations as operational decisions to SEAC for engagement. Once we've made those decisions, we do make them public for SEAC as well as all of our parents. I know SEAC and the operational needs of a district as large as ours, or any district really. And I just also want to be reinforcing that it's not considered a congregated site. So the decision for incoming grade 9 students in the regular stream really was an enrollment challenge for the school.
This isn't resulting in the closure of Eastdale then over time. So next year, when a huge number of kids in that geographic area may potentially need programs, it would be reconsidered and students would be placed there, or we're going to hear no space for 9s and 10s and then eventually 11s.
I can't predict the future, Nora. What I can say is Eastdale has been suffering enrollment challenges and is likely to continue to experience enrollment challenges. Thank you.
Richard?
Thank you, David. Put the video on there. I got video on. All right, perfect. And lower my hand here. Okay. So I know there was also a reference made to Hayden Park tonight, and I will disclose that my daughter attended her high school years there at Hayden Park. And I recall in 2010, there was an article at the Toronto Star. The headline read, Toronto's Hayden Park Secondary School is a haven for exceptional girls. And I know from our experience, there was a lot of flexibility in terms of the exceptionality, because even though a student might be categorized as developmental disability, they were often allowed to attend in the Hayden Park MI program. So I wonder if the lack of enrollment being identified at Eastdale and what was identified at Hayden Park, if there was a true marketing effort on the part of the TDSB to market the programs in these schools, and how much flexibility, or were they going by the letter of the law, which seems to be the theme of the day for many items, and saying, well, we don't have enough students with this exceptionality, and therefore we're closing programs, because to my knowledge, there is no other program in the city of Toronto, TDSB, like Hayden Park. It is the only one of its kind, and I almost wonder if that's the reason for its demise, but I leave it at that. Thank you.
All right, Bronwyn?
I just wanted to share the experience from the ISP programs from a family perspective, but especially post-COVID. The enrollments for ISP programs before were quite large, especially in the definitely part of your community, especially in the preschool ISP programs that were sort of entering in before JK. What really happened was in our community, a lot of things were halted. Our family support workers were no longer accessible to us. We had teacher at the desk who used to come to our home, they were cut off from us. There was multiple sort of service providers that were cut off during lock-ins and never really fully resumed. I don't know if this is the same in other communities, but the promotion or PR of ISP programs was really brutally tackled during the time where parents weren't knowing when their children diagnosed and they were going into enroll their kids that these ISP programs existed. It's usually when things get to a point where they're getting those phone calls constantly, they're sort of being pushed into ISPs because they're saying their children are no longer manageable at the school. That's when it's sort of families are like, I don't even know what an ISP is. So I'm just going to share overall, I think the TDSB has to address, especially post-COVID, to make these drastic decisions and evaluate that they have not done a good job in promoting post-COVID to try and keep them going. I don't think there's been enough work of it. And I also need to see it with the communities that they work in intervention before they get enrolled into schools, like the infant hearing program. There's been a big disconnect with that, with working collaboratively together. So I think there's multiple reasons, and these ISP programs are very important to keep running.
Thank you. I just want to add my own reflections. And if would correct me if I've got anything wrong. No, they disagree with me, but if I got anything wrong, please help me. And I want to begin by saying I've been to either of these schools. I don't know anything about the program there beyond what I've seen reported or people like Richard Carter have shared. But I do see a couple of things going on here. The first is, if the board was to look at either or both schools and say, you know what, we don't see in the long run that this is the way we want to, that this school, the way it's operating, is the best way to do things. It's better if we reallocate these somewhere else. The board at that point benefit from having a useful discussion with families, because what they might end up finding out from families is it's not just a matter of moving class X from building A to building B, but actually undermining or destroying a place where there's an interactive experience among all those who go there. Like, along the lines of what Richard said. Now, I don't know if there is beyond what Richard said or if there isn't. I'm not arguing the saying a sensible decision would be, yeah, we're thinking of rolling it down, we're gonna do it a year at a time, after having that kind of parents as partners discussion. That's not what's going on here. What we're being told is this is operational, so staff just do it. And they apply their judgment. I'm not saying they're bad people, but they do it, and SEAC or the families in the community aren't going to be consulted, and that's the way we do our business. Now, there's several problems with that. The first is, I think it's wrong, respectfully, to treat this like any ISP. Every year they decide a particular mild intellectual disability class is going to be in an elementary school in a particular neighborhood, but it may be in school A instead of school B this year. Now, this is a decision which affects ultimately the gradual shutting down of the school, the way it looks from the outside. To us, certainly to me, it's a very different decision, and treating it like it's the same, to me, this is the point, and I would think obviously so. Next, saying that this is operational, which staff have been saying this to us in recent months over and over. Let me be clear, I've said it before, our mandate as SEAC does not exempt operational matters. Everything we talk about is operational. Take a look at every leadership report you have seen at the table, however long you've been here. Everything in it is operational. Nothing in the regulation that creates us says operational matters are not the subject of our consultation or advice. Rather, it provides broadly. We heard that the associate director went back and looked at the mandate in deciding, no, they can't copy those letters to send out one email to the network of directors so that others SEACs can get it. By looking afresh at our mandate, well, read the mandate. It's to advise on the delivery of special education. That's all operational. And let's go further. And this is where technical, tedious, bureaucratic distinctions disregard reality. We were told in a letter of the minister, yeah, we can do that. Well, that's really not what we're here to advise the board. Guess who's running the board? The trustees are gone. A supervisor who reports directly to the minister. We are writing the person who's running the board. Not day-to-day every single decision, but who's in a position to. It's core to our mandate, not on the outside. So I think that what's missing here, I'm not proposing a motion, others can feel free to, or maybe we will in May, is I think out of respect for families and proper decision-making, helpful when these decisions are made. If there is, especially when it affects the future viability of the school in its entirety, some degree of parental consultation. But one more thing. Nora correctly pointed out that part of this, I'm going to add to it. It's not like a store that says, well, we're not stocking that product anymore because people don't seem to want to buy it. It's not like you go to an IPRC and they say, okay, we're going to approve a particular category. Which one do you want? And they get offered an option. And if they don't like it, they can be offered another one. Not only that, but if families, at least unless the policies changed in 2 years, if families ask the board, can we go visit them and then express an interest for an option? The answer is no, not until one's offered by the IPRC, by board policy. for special education intensive support classes. So the rules of the board get in the way of that kind of consumer choice mentality. Not only that, but we've been asking the board for years to better inform families about what the options are out there. Now, the map was done and that's helpful, but that's far short of what people need. So to me, unless I'm misunderstanding things, there are things that are and we would have a helpful role core to our mandate to have some input into these decisions. They're the board's decisions, not ours, but at least some input. Is there anyone, Leo? Ann and then Leo, and then let's move on to our next agenda item.
So I think that what I'm hearing everybody say is that is the members worried about the transparency of the board in alerting us to what is actually happening in real time. So it's impossible to advise everybody when we don't have the information or even part of the information to look at that. And I'm just wondering what other strategies perhaps were used to look at this matter, or I don't know if there are any possibilities of this, like looking into their boundaries or readjusting boundaries. I know other schools hold the capacity, so what other methods were looked at or parents offered or discussed about to minimize the burden on these students who are now potentially travel further away for further needs, or maybe potentially some short or drop out from their programs because of to travel back and forth. And so.
Okay, Leo?
Thank you, David. I just want to focus on another angle that I don't think came up. And it's usually invisible in decisions like this, and it's really impact of instability and transition on autistic students. We heard today that this is just a rejig of ISP, an operational adjustment, response enrollment, whatever, right? Just moving around ISP, they do that all the time. But I'm going to go beyond those schools just in general, right? I think you just have to remember that for many of these students, there's no such thing as structural adjustment. Predictability is not a preference for them. It's actually it's a regulatory need. Stability of environment, peer group, staffing, routine, all that is fundamental for emotional regulation, school attendance, skill development, mental health, all those things. So when you suspend intake like that, you're introducing uncertainty into systems that already demand extraordinary adaptation from students. So when you rejig ISPs all the time, and again, I'm not just talking about the school, I'm talking about your rejigging that happens every single year. You consolidate, you suspend intake, restructure. What is the cumulative impact of constant change on autistic students depend on environmental consistency? I think it's absurd, to be quite honest, that the students who most suffer change in the PTSD are the students that cannot tolerate change, right? It's insane how often they move around. It doesn't make any sense, right? For them, transition is not a logistical shift, it's a neurological effect. And repeated systematic restructuring, even if you're well-intended, it's compounding harm, right? So please remember, if you're going to review ISPs, you must account for transition vulnerability. Operational efficiency cannot be your sole end. You need to measure stability as one of your outcomes. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to, unless staff want to say anything in response, I'm delighted to give you a chance now, or otherwise we'll move on to the next agenda item. And people can decide if you want to bring forward a motion at a future meeting. Feel free to reach out to me.
Well, thanks very much, David, for the opportunity and for CS members sharing their best advice, requests, comments. We are listening. Thank you for the comments about creating stability, Leo, and the importance of transition planning. We know change is very difficult. The locations of our ISPs are very thoughtfully done. And please be reassured, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting who posed the question and the worry about the students' who will be offered other ISP locations. Distance is absolutely part of the consideration variable, and we are confident. TSD does have many schools, and fortunately, the other locations to be very close for the students and the families. All families have been contacted, and support remains ongoing. And lots of say no change is difficult. And when we see a school with declining enrollment, we know it is very emotional. We know the historic importance of Eastdale and Hayden Park. Please know that we will continue to nurture and support the maintaining students as they continue to receive their education at these locations. And we seek every opportunity to be engaging in matters that your advice is very much needed, asked for, and we will continue to do so. And it's really an opportunity, I think, Chair Lopofsky, I'm hearing the frustration that SEAC members about, what does this mean our relationship is changing? I would welcome an opportunity to speak with you and others on what that might look like with SEAC providing advice to the supervisor and on matters that you deem important, and you do that at every meeting, as well as when we bring changes or ideas to you and your advice. So I am hoping that we will continue to have a positive relationship going forward. I know this feels like resetting some ways that we operate, but it does not mean in any way that staff or the supervisor are not valuing the information and the advice.
Right, thank you. The next thing I've got on the agenda, I had asked staff to convey us that we would appreciate a report on activities of the supervisor. Because now all the work that was not only done by the board, the trustees, is now being done by the supervisor. But the supervisor also has more authority than the trustees, because he can engage in what staff have been referring to as operational matters. And so I asked for that report. Of course, I've been inviting, there's a standing invitation to the supervisor to attend our SEAC meetings. I regret he hasn't attended any of them. I am advised by chairs of other boards under supervision that in some cases, their supervisors have attended at least some of their special education advisory committee meetings. And I gathered from what I heard, and I think from the media, that he's the TDSD supervisor attended the parent involvement advisory committee. So I asked for this, and I was advised that staff can, or probably the SEAC members can refer to the webpage where the supervisor's decisions are made. And I've conveyed to staff that we need more. I mean, the same way that we have trustees reports, well, there were trustees, we weren't just told, go look at the trustee meetings. And we got a flavor of what's going on. But not only that, at least as of a couple of days ago, I believe, and you can check the site, correct me if I'm wrong, the last decision of or action of the supervisor that's reported is back in the early January. I'm wrong about that, please. But as the person who's effectively the senior person, but for the minister, in charge of operations here, I gotta believe something's going on. It'd be helpful to know, at least get a sense of what. It'd be all of it, but at least some of it. So I'm opening it up to whether it's the Stacy or Louise or Andy, if any of you can help us with anything that's going on, we really appreciate it.
Thanks, David. So with regards to the specific information that you were seeking, multiple staff actually support the office, from superintendents to principals and department staff as well. All those collaborate to support inquiries that come into the student and family support office. And these staff members liaise with local and all staff members liaise together locally and centrally to ensure inquiries are being addressed. And so the office is adequately staffed with qualified people who work alongside and in collaboration with school-based and department staff, and they've helped and continue to help hundreds of parents and students already. With regards to the second question you asked, which is calls coming in, the office continues to receive dozens of calls each week. I don't have specific data to share, but I can share that what was shared with me is 100% of the requests that can be addressed within 5 days are addressed within 5 days. And a limited number of requests that come in do need additional time to be addressed based on the nature of those requests, but they're monitored closely by the office until they are completed. As we get more data, we will continue to ensure that we are doing the best that we can to support all students and their families. With regards to reporting to the ministry, supervised school boards share the number of calls and the high-level topics covered in those calls or through those calls with the ministry. And those are the two pieces that are shared. With regards to a report on what the supervisor has done to date, I don't have any additional information to what I shared last meeting, which was that the official record of the supervisor's decisions are posted on the TDSB website, and they can be viewed at any time. With regards to the class sizes for grades 4 to 8, that decision was made in line with central agreement, ministry requirements, and all grade 4 to 8 classes continue to have an average of 24.5 students. 24 classes, which represents 0.37% out of 6,363 classes, have more than 32 students. So those were the responses to the questions that.
Okay, that actually covered about 3 agenda items at once, way more succinctly than I am. But there are questions or comments from anybody. We're rolling up this student family support office issue on the agenda and the increase in the class, or removing the cap on the maximum class size of grade 4 to 8 individual classes. And my request for a report on what the supervisor, what his focus is or what's going on, in the same way that if you watch a meeting of the Board of Trustees, the chair would begin the meeting with the chair's report, talking about what their priority areas are of action. Are there other questions? I mean, I've asked, I put these on the agenda so that you can ask anything you want or raise anything. No? Okay. Oh, Laura, go ahead.
Well, it's more of a comment, but it just feels like a black
Sure.
box. It feels like a black box. Like, you don't know what happens, there's no place to ask a question. I don't even know what to say. It's hard to come up with a question when you're not getting enough information to formulate a question.
Why don't we bring in Jean Paul, because he's up, but if you want to, you can come up with it after he's done. Happy to have you back. Jean Paul?
Thank you, David. I think there's what should we understand here on the agenda item 4, that the supervisor did not take the action that's what we recorded here on this,
Well, what I had asked for, we get a report on, an update on what the supervisor has been doing. We get reports from TDSB staff on what's going on in the special education, part of the board, but we also benefit when we have Craig Snyder come and talk to us about budget and so on. So in the same way, the trustees come and tell us, or used to tell us at meetings, what the areas are that they're working on, that it would be useful to hear. Now, all of that authority is rolled up in the supervisor to know what he's working on, not just the decisions reached up to now, but what are the priority areas or whatever, some kind of insight, because we don't really know. That's what I was asking.
Sorry, I got that now, because we're not getting anything, that means she wrote the standard, she didn't do anything.
Best pass the staff, right?
Thank you. So again, the minutes, Jean-Paul, would reflect that decisions made by the supervisor are posted publicly on the TDSB website. So I don't think it's accurate to say that the supervisor hasn't made any decisions. What I shared, and I'm going to reiterate, is that decisions made by the supervisor are posted on the TDSB website.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Nandy. SEAC is not public. SEAC is SEAC. And I think that's exactly the reason why we have trustee here, sitting on with us here and share exactly what they're doing. I don't, because that is like, maybe I'm repeating what you already said. It's like, the trustee will say that, oh, if you want to know what we're doing, let's go to the website and see what we're doing. And I think it has never happened. Since our business on the 16 year now, it's the first time that we see it. I think over this 16 year, we have of this similar situation. We never heard it. Sorry.
If I may, David, I'm trying to contribute to the conversation, and I'm sensing frustration, John Paul, so I hear you. CF members, we are under supervision, and the circumstances are different. We don't have trustees. What I want to reinforce is that CF is a public meeting. The agenda is posted. It is open to the public who may join the SEAC in the board meeting room to experience the meeting live. Minutes are posted as well. In addition, supervisors' decisions, as a board of trustees' decisions, are posted publicly on the webpage. What I think that you are missing is a trustee report. Please know that the leadership report connects directly to the work that staff are doing in support of students with disabilities and special education needs. In addition, interim director Stacey Zucker is here. In addition, we have special advisor Laura Elliott here, supervisor Kentley. All of your motions, a debrief of SEAC occurs with the supervisor. So please know, in a unique circumstance of being under supervision, the decisions that he is making are posted for your review. If there is something that is directly connected to special education needs, we include that in our leadership report. So please know we are being very, very transparent with you. Thank you.
So I think and thank you, Louise, I think what we're missing is, so I appreciate very much the trustees would mention other reviews and policies that were coming up that staff had not perceived affected special education students, but very much did. So for example, how to support vulnerable children or children at risk, and we needed to report, and the fact that the policy that had been drafted by the non-special education staff had omitted the fact that you would be supporting vulnerable students above the age of 18. And there was no policy in the school that was set up to talk about how we were going to protect kids with developmental disabilities who were between 18 and 21, and the staff who were not part of special ed came to us because our trustees let us know that was happening. And we were able to give advice about something that wasn't quote unquote special ed, but very much in a very vulnerable population that we are here to advocate for. So I think that's what David's talking about, is we know what's being brought forward and discussed and reviewed. Clearly, some people within the system, and Mandy can't talk with every single superintendent that exists, are not aware what does and does not affect our kids, but our trustees were there and were aware of it. And now how do we know?
Sorry, did you, David, did you want me to respond?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the point, Nora, and the question. So I think that you're referring to one specific policy that was brought up by a trustee. Policies that, as part of their consultation plan, are asked to be going to different community groups or different form of consultation that provide opportunity. I think that we got there regardless, but your point is well taken, and we'll be on the lookout to be sure to making sure that even when we are not necessarily saying this is affecting students with special education needs, will be front considering whether we need to bring it to SEAC for consultation. In the past, what we've done through David is develop a small working group or interested department alongside staff. So point well taken, and we'll give that assiduous attention going forward. Thank you.
Let me just, and I appreciate this discussion. I think it's helpful. Here's my take on it. Number one, yes, the board posts the decision. That's when they're already over. And even when they affect us, the supervisor has reached them without talking to us first or coming to our meetings. Now, I know staff have said that they bring our concerns to him, but sometimes that's in cases where staff is bringing our concerns over a decision staff is making. Now, excuse me, I think we could pitch our case better than someone who actually disagrees with it. Just, there's only so much you can do. But we're not being given an opportunity to know what's coming up. We know what's coming, what staff tell us about what's going on in their department, in their branch or department. But decisions after the fact for an advisory committee are nice to know about, but that's after the horse is bolted. It kind of defeats the purpose of, oh, I don't know, our mandate, which is to give advice. And for example, if the superintendent is brought in under a supervision regime where he's the board, the minister was concerned about certain things going on board and wanted things changed. So we don't know what's being changed until it is. And the only thing to add is, respectfully, based on Louise's comment, yes, sometimes we're things in advance in the leadership report, but sometimes we aren't, like Hayden High School and Eastdale High School, and a decision to increase the maximum size grade 4 to grade 8 individual classes, or at least to lift the cap on it. A decision which I expect we would have some advice to give on because of its potential adverse effects on students with disabilities and special education needs. So we're not always told about these things in advance, and we don't get a chance to have a say, and knowing about it after the fact is helpful to know, but doesn't help us fulfill our mandate. Is there any other? Nora and then Jessica.
sorry, David, as you were talking about the increased class size, and then after I started thinking about some of our students, I'm not even sure in classes of 32, if some of the students who would have physical equipment. I don't even know if some of the schools would have classrooms that would hold the kids. Right, so if you have a student who's physical and they're integrating class and they have standards and other equipment, how does that? Is the board going to make allowances for administrators to be able to reduce class size in instances where you've got needs in that class that will struggle in 32? So my understanding is administrators don't have a lot of say anymore about class size. So how is somebody central going to know who is in that room with 32 people? And are administrators going to be given permission to make allowances because they have physical needs or learning needs or developmental needs?
Do you want staff to come in, or
Yeah.
you're offering feedback?
No, I would like, I think they have to do that. I think it's going to be, for some students, that's going to be very challenging given the specific environment, that the congregation of that many number of students, and equipment, sensory needs, et cetera, that's going to become unwieldy. They're going to have to give it some sort of allowance to make adjustments to that.
Anyone else? Oh, Jessica, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, David, I'm gonna go back to agenda item 3 about Eastdale High School. I appreciate staff's comments about the meetings technically being open to the public. And yes, we do have a couple of people here in the boardroom, and we definitely appreciate their presence. It isn't feasible for most people. We've discussed this many times. I am receiving messages from parents from Eastdale who would have liked to be here but weren't able to secure time in order to attend. So they are very grateful to Autism Ontario for live streaming this meeting. My apologies, Coalition for live streaming this meeting. I am receiving information that, for example, statements about low enrollment aren't correct because offers were rescinded after they were made. And parents continue to indicate an interest in attending the program at Eastdale, but are being turned away. And while it is true that Eastdale is well promoted, that is a decision by the TLCs. I think that you really need to be careful about the statements that we're making about, this meeting being open. I think David has raised this in the past, and I think we need to continue to reinforce that it simply isn't acceptable to a lot of families with children with special education needs, because they face a lot more barriers to attend other meetings. So I just wanted to share those comments.
Only one quick comment before we go, and I should have this in my chair's report, but I should advise you, I've advised previously that I've had 2 meetings with the chair, with the supervisor, and they were both, I believe, really good meetings. I can't say I walked away with something decided on or whatever that we didn't have, but in terms of a fair hearing and a good opportunity to exchange and discuss and get to know each other, they were really good. And I thought there was an understanding that having these meetings from time to time would be good. And the last time I spoke, I met with them, I said, I talked about the next meeting, he said, best if it's early in the new year, not before the holiday break in December. When I asked a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember when, I received an email from his office that he's decided that my meeting should be with the interim director, Stacy Zucker, who I'm always delighted to meet, and Elliot, who's on the Zoom call with us, who's working in his office. I talked to her once before, had a great call, but my understanding of her role is that she's an advisor, she's not a. So I'm actually quite worried if that little limited opportunity, not as good as coming to one of these meetings, parent input is now also lost. I firmly believe that if I share our concerns with, in or out of the meeting with the Director of Education, with Laura Elliott, that they will in good faith convey those along. But there's a whole heck of a lot different between sitting face to face. Kind of the parents as partners versus parents as not even anywhere near the room. Let me turn to our April meeting, in which we are inviting parents to come and speak to us. Coordinating this at the head of our working group is Nora. Over to you.
Thanks, David. I'm going to pick up on a theme from Bronwyn. So right now we have 6 registrants to delegate that night. And I know from talking to my colleagues on SEAC that those are not the only parents who are struggling. Bronwyn earlier spoke of that exhaustion that advocating brings to families, to SEAC members, to people, the barriers, the new barriers that have appeared, being able to participate and engage with the board about the services your child offers. And excuse me for a minute, I was with a family for an hour and a half today. And they would have had a fabulous story to share. Whether they feel comfortable coming forward remains to be seen. Many families in my fear reprisal. But we're all going to need to try and reach out to our associations and the families we're personally supporting, and sort of hold their hand and hope that they have the confidence to speak for families that don't know how to find us, and families that feel the language barriers, the power imbalance. At least the families that have come to us have reached the point where they're to reach out and ask for help. But I implore you to encourage the people you know in submitting to Leanne to delegate that night, because certainly a lot of the families that call me are feeling scared and anxious, and probably will need support to come forward. And I think when we have a system where people say to us that, just let us know where that's happening, that's for the very few who have the confidence to even find us. Never mind all the other families that don't get that far. So I think we need to help people find their voice and help people find their courage and hold their hand through that. And I'm collecting their contact information. So this year, I will have email lists. I will try and we will stay in touch. And as an organizing committee, we'll break up and make sure that people reach back to them so they don't feel abandoned after they've shared. Not that we can guarantee it happens, but at least you don't feel like you just came and sort of opened a wound and walked away with no one caring about that. So if you guys could help find people, that would be amazing. So they need to email Leanne just with their name, their contact information for email and phone, and then a brief description of what are the accommodations and what their topic would be.
And whether they're in person or on Zoom.
Yeah.
And
even if they just stay with their name and contact info, I can contact them back.
If I could just suggest, if everybody at this meeting could just put a message to Nora after about what you can do, or your association can do to get word out, because we got to do this ourselves, I regret. So let's do it.
Oh, one last thing, David. Leo, if you're on, Autism Ontario worked some slides that reduced the amount of text so it wasn't as overwhelming. And so, Leo, can I share that out with everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. It's already being shared on social media. It was not Ontario, by the way, it was the Ontario Autism Coalition that we have over there. And they have done a great job with that. So thank you to the Ontario Autism Coalition for making the slides more social media friendly. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for doing that.
I'll send you the new version tomorrow.
Yeah, I wanted to thank them as well because, that was brought to my attention as well, so we need definitely, I think that's, if once we have something that's more accessible as well, that would be, very important for all of us as members, whatever we did do before. I personally, shared it all over social media and our community groups and such, but, I think if we do this again, like, don't give up hope around here. We can do this, it's just that, it's a lot more work for us, to do this, but we can make it happen. The other thing I just wanted to mention as far as supervisor, and his absence and never being at any of these meetings. The other thing that makes parents feel is just that there's no hope. When you speak to someone at SEAC and you say that you're going to these meetings every month, and then you tell them the supervisor has never even shown his face and come, but he's come to other like that, for showing his face to that. Why are we not important? Why do we get ignored, as organizations and the parents and the families we represent? It does not help us to build any trust with him going forward, and families feel like there's no hope to even bother showing up and advocating on our own. Louise and Nandy, I know this is totally out of your hands, and I know, you probably want to bring your video for us, but if you could please bring this message to him that he needs to show his face at the meeting. He has shown his face at other TDSB meetings, and he has to do it because it makes it look terrible in front of us and the people we represent. Thank you.
David, if I may, thanks, Ron. Want to provide some reassurance.
Sorry, Louise, Stacy was going to address things.
Thank you.
Thanks, Louise, and thank you through the chair. I just wanted to confirm with everybody that the minister and the ministry have designated me as the representation for the board at SEAC.
I do understand that, Stacey, and I'm sorry, I don't want you to feel like you're not a human person. You are, I appreciate you coming. It's just, you are not a supervisor. It's nothing against you. It's just, the message is not being blatantly clear. Where if you have, it's like you're complaining to the principal, but the principal doesn't show up and you get to leave feet constantly. You're like, okay, I'm not important here. Doesn't even bother to come to the meeting to show their face to me. It's not, I'm not saying it's you or anything, but it really just, we don't care enough to make the time. If that, I don't know his personal life, if he has children like myself, if he can't make there in person, I get it, that he can click on a screen like I am, doing multiple things with my children in my home and at least show the face once throughout the meetings, like you yourself, Stacey, are doing, and I really appreciate what you're doing, but it needs to be the supervisor at least once. We are now in March. Not okay. And I appreciate the leads if you wanted to share what you wanted to stress as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I think it's fair, we all get it, it's a hierarchical organization. And none of the staff here have any authority to do anything other than pass it on. I believe people are basically saying pass it on. Next agenda item, by the way, in a minute, after the next two items, Andy, I want to move up the leadership report because we've got a few other things, but I want to make sure you don't get jammed. But special education plan. Nandy is going to update us on what she's doing with the feedback she's received. And then Jessica is going to present an item, which we'll talk about in a minute, a minority report that she wants to submit for the special education plan. Nandy, why don't you address the staff piece, and then we'll take questions on that, and then we'll separately turn to the ABC piece.
Thank you, David. So this is with regards to the special education plan. So thank you to the members of the special education plan working group for meeting with staff and providing feedback to the plan. So staff are in the process right now of reviewing all of the feedback, not only from those members of SEAC, but also from community from staff, from others that we've received feedback from. And we will be putting that together as we normally do, whichever changes are going to be made or amendments, and we will be bringing that back to SEAC to share with all of SEAC. With regards to the working group, one of the pieces we will be changing in the plan is we will not be for next year having a special education plan working group or a budget working group. We will be bringing both of those items to all of SEAC in order to get more voice from more members of SEAC. And that way we are capturing more feedback on the plan. That is basically the update that I have right now for the special education plan, David.
Okay, and I'm just gonna add that we're open and flexible on how to do that input gathering at SEAC meetings. My worry is that you're just given 20 pages to read, and which is a perfectly reasonable question to ask. For a lot of people, that'll be kind of daunting. So I've asked staff, and I'm asking committee members to think about if there's ways that could make this a bit easier. I myself know that if I'm going to read a document like that, or any document, it helps if I know what the questions are. And it may be, we're thinking about A or B. Do you have any thoughts? Not that that limits the input, but at least it directs your mind. And I invite staff to consider that. And I invite SEAC members to consider if there are other ways that can make this easier for all of you to look through this stuff. Because what I don't want to happen is we send it out to everybody and everybody is kind of your eyes glaze over when you read it, and because you don't know where to start in terms of getting input, despite your efforts.
Thanks, David. I think that's a really fair point, and certainly we will be doing a process to do that, and of course get input on from SEAC into that. So the requirement with regards to the special education plan is that it's to be amended from time to time. So unless we're drastically changing something with regards to program supports and services, really and truly, it shouldn't be amended every single year. So the amount of amendments will vary from year to year, depending on whatever it is we might be looking to change or not year over year with regards to program supports and services. But certainly, I think your point is fair, and we will be proposing a process and asking SEAC for input into that so that we can ensure we get engagement and participation from as many members as possible.
And the other thing is, I know we have a diverse crowd at this committee, and some of you, whether through business or job-related things, have more experience in this kind of more systemic planning and all that stuff. If any of you have any ideas on how you think the board could elicit our feedback, Mandy, if it's okay, I really would suggest they just write you with their ideas. We're going to get copied to everybody and whatever you prefer. But I just think it, like, you might find there's a couple of people who've got specific ideas that are worth you thinking about.
That works for me. And the other piece I'll share, which I'll share when we bring the amendments to SEAC, is we will go over what the role actually is, or the responsibilities in terms of reviewing the plan from time to time, but also what needs to be in the plan. So the plan's not meant to have everything look about special education. It's very much directive for the standards for school board special education plan. So we'll talk about all those pieces as well.
Okay, thanks. Oh, okay, JP and Richard, before we get to Jessica, we're gonna get to our phones. JP.
Thanks a lot for sharing the decision for not having budget and special education in your working group. Can you please share? You probably make a decision through one assessment. Can you please share, rationale that decision with us.
Thank you, Jean-Paul. I think that's a really good question. So as you know, Craig Snyder would be coming from the budget department to consult with all of SEAC on budget, an example. We found that when we were having these working group committees, as much as we appreciate the feedback from the members, it was 2 members or 3 members on those working groups. And we really value everyone's input and feedback, and we're hoping to be able to get that in a different way. This is not a practice, Jean-Paul, that is or going to be unique to TDSB. Most school districts, this is how they do it. They bring it to the entire SEAC. So we're trying to maximize the input and the feedback we get. With regards to the budget work, we aren't the budget department. So sometimes questions that would arise from members of SEAC on those working groups, the 2 or 3 that were there, we didn't have their answers for them anyway, and we would be taking it back to Craig. So it's best if Craig came himself. Craig has, it's best if Craig came himself and all of SEAC gives that feedback to Craig. Similarly, special education plan, Jean-Paul, we would be looking to maximize input and assume the same. Thanks.
Okay, and for those, there's always, at least as long as I've been on SEAC, there's always some members, a small group, who are really into the plan and want to invest a lot of time. And others who aren't very involved or aren't involved at all. I want those who are very interested to let you know, you're not losing out through this change. If you've got concerns you want raised, be sure to raise them, and don't wait for a SEAC meeting. Feel free to talk to staff and bring forward. You don't have to be sitting at this table saying it to convey your concerns. Feel free to go ahead and do that. I don't want anybody to think they're losing out from this, because people have put a whole lot of time into this. I'm not one of them, and I appreciate those who did that they did. All right, we have one other person. Richard.
Thank you, David. And as you just acknowledged, a lot of time is put in to these 2 topics by the working group, having sat working groups first for myself, and understand Mandy's comments that sometimes it would only be a couple of obviously that they represented the interests of SEAC. And I think if the intent is to hear all voices of SEAC for both the budget and the special education plan, a couple things. We have the opportunity to have meetings above and beyond the 10 meetings per year. I would suggest each one of these becomes its own specific meeting, because trying to put this into a meeting like tonight with the size of agenda you have and the number of people on SEAC, and if each person spoke to on the budget and 1 item on the special ed plan, and you divide the number into 2 hours, it would virtually be a couple minutes per person. So without giving it our full attention in a complete meeting specific to these 2 topics, I think we'd be doing a disservice to the students and staff at the board. So I think that should be something we look at doing. And if the board deems that these changes to the special education plan are so, shall we say, insignificant amendments from time to time, maybe they omit submitting it to the ministry. Maybe the ministry, why would we want to submit the same thing to the ministry that they saw last year if the changes are really not of importance? I don't know that submitted to the ministry would even allow the board to omit putting it in. They're still going to want to see it. So I think it still requires full discussion. Yeah. Thank you.
Both good ideas. But do me a favor over the summer, pester me about that idea of the specialized meeting. Let's sort of apply. I'm not going to be thinking of it now, but I don't want to lose it as an idea worth discussing. Okay. Jessica, so let me give, Jessica, can I give a 1-minute intro at the stage?
Of course.
So Jessica came to me and said, there's a in the special education plan from the point of view of gifting from the association of bright children, concern that they shared with staff, and I gather from the point of view of ABC, staff is not making the change they want. I don't propose, and nobody is expecting, we're going to debate the merits of that here and now. But rather, Jessica said that she would like to propose on behalf of ABC that a minority report be attached to the special education plan, setting out the concerns, and that is what is circulated to all of you. Now, there's two ways to view what we do with this. One is that we have to, majority of us agree with the minority report, exactly what it's arguing, or it doesn't go forward. Or another approach, which I'm going to tell you right front, is the view I take. I'm going to tell you why. I think that we, if it's presented in good faith as it is by ABC, that we receive it, we vote to receive it, and we vote to have it submitted as a minority report that is submitted by ABC. So it's purporting to be exactly what it is, their position. And I'll tell you why this matters to me. We have people with diverse disability-related needs, for example, at this table. I'm here for blind kids. If I bring forward a concern that I want added in on behalf of blind kids that TDSB doesn't want to adopt, I don't want to get into what it is or what the merits might be. I don't want to right now. I've got concerns, but I'm not proposing a majority report. But I don't think it would be fair to blind kids to have sort of a majority of the table has to decide it's right. And similarly, I don't want to be asked to vote on the wisdom of a recommendation from Voice for the Hearing Impaired about deaf kids, about which I know absolutely nothing. So I think that the best way to approach this, that I'm going to recommend, is that ABC offer it to us to receive it as part of it. We vote to receive their report on their behalf. That is not a vote of endorsement. We're not agreeing with it, you are not disagreeing with it. And we agree that it be provided to the TDSB as a minority report that speaks on behalf of ABC. So it doesn't purport to speak for all of us. We are not put in the awkward, uncomfortable, troubled position on the wisdom of it, in voting on what gifted kids need, who we're not here to represent. And the same thing, we would extend that courtesy to ABC. I would offer that we should extend that courtesy to each of us. I have a minority report offered at this committee in the 10 years I've been here. There's some people here who've been here longer than me. You may remember it, but I'm not worried that somehow we're opening some floodgates and we're going to have a pile of minority reports. Jessica, is that fair? Is that intro?
Absolutely fair. Thank you, David.
Over to you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share that the reason that ABC Ontario has prepared this minority report is that ABC Ontario has been asked to support various families through appeal processes related to their IPRC decisions. And TDSB legal staff has taken the position that SEAC has the ability to amend the special education plan. That's not my understanding of what we have the power to do. But there are provisions in the special education plan to treat different types of consultation or different types of information differently. So minority reports are treated differently than comments on the special education plan that are submitted either through the working group or through the link that is received. And given that this is an issue that comes up over and over again, we wanted to do our due diligence and make sure that we'd exercise every opportunity available to us to ensure that our position is communicated when the special education plan is published next year. So minority reports are required to be specifically acknowledged in future editions, the next year's special education plan. So we're just trying to do our due diligence. David's advice is advice that I accept. I think that if we all had to vote on the minority report, it would become a majority report, which I think is positioned. So I am very much in favor of David's approach, just asking that the minority report be received. So that's what we're asking for today.
So what this would formally be is a motion by you for SEAC to receive this minority report and to present it to TD staff as a minority report, speaking on behalf of ABC.
That's correct.
And don't ask me to say that again.
I believe it's recorded.
Do you want to bring a motion and then we can open it to discussion? You want to move
Yes,
to that?
so could I please move the motion as stated by David already?
We have a seconder. Nora, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, Leanne, are you okay with the wording of the motion? Are you?
I have half of it written down,
Okay,
but I'm sure I can put it together.
all right. Let me just say it, that because I'm putting motion in your mouth, tell me if I get it wrong. That ABC would be moving that SEAC receive the minority report of BC regarding the special education plan, and that SEAC presents that minority report, or that document to be made a minority report in the special education plan, speaking on behalf of ABC. Is that fair? Yes. All right, thank you. All in favor?
For here, Leanne.
Okay, and set them online, so that carries.
All right, excellent. That's great. Special education review. Actually, before this, let's do the minority report. Let's do the leadership report, please. Is that okay? Are you okay with me moving it up, Mandy?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay.
Leanne, can you move the slides forward, please? Thank you so much. As I share every month, we are offering a number of parent engagement sessions again this month, and for March, these sessions are going to be, we're focusing on 3 areas. So special education resources for families, that will be a drop-in session, as well as autism regional services will have a drop-in session for families. And we will be having a drop-in session for families on helping them how to help support their child in navigating everyday and big school changes. We are coming up to the end of the year. Students might be moving to new grades, new schools, and we want to support families in supporting their children through those changes. And of course, all of our sessions, not the drop, but our formal sessions are recorded and posted on the website under the Parent Engagement Sessions tab of the Special Education and Inclusion public site. So families can access them at any time. Next slide, please, Leanne, thank you. Engagement sessions on transitions. So again, in keeping with this, we did have a formal session on transitions on February 24th, and we repeated it on February 25. We had a total of attending, and the sessions really focused on providing practical strategies and resources to support families in navigating school transitions for students with special education needs and or disabilities from kindergarten through life beyond high school. And so our drop-in session in March on this topic will be for families who wanted to come to follow up or have any follow-up questions that they might need to ask, or any new families that might attend. Next slide, please. I had shared this in passing, but officially we did write an additional qualification course called the Special Education for Administrators AQ course, and the Ontario College of Teachers has actually accredited the TDSB to deliver this Special Education for Administrators additional qualification course. And this is important because you'll remember I shared at last month's SEAC that effective September 2026, anyone looking to go through the teacher to vice principal to principal, or principal to superintendent processes must have special education qualifications. So this is our way of supporting them to have that. The course will focus on legal and ethical responsibilities connected to legislation with regards to special education, strategies and frameworks to support an inclusive and equitable school culture that honors individual learning needs, styles, and strengths of students, and the centrality of relationships and responding to conflict and challenge. And just to let you know, you might be wondering, well, why those focuses? So the Ontario College of Teachers for every type of AQ actually gives us a very stringent guideline of what needs to be included in an additional qualification course. Next slide, please. So the TDSB Eureka Conference 2026, Igniting Potential, Unleashing the Brilliance of Students in Every STEM Classroom. We did have staff from the Special Education Department present an interactive presentation at this marketplace that focused on supporting students with special education needs and disabilities and key topics included inclusive curriculum and design in STEM subjects and evidence-based UDL, Universal Design for Learning, DI, differentiated instruction, and CRRP, and responsive pedagogy. Next slide, please. As part of the leadership report, we did include ONSIS data for the 2025-26 school year. Jessica, I know you had some questions. I will be taking that back to the SIS team, those questions, but the data was shared with SEAC for the 2025-2026 school year. And that was this is the October ONSIS data. So this was as of October 2025. Next slide, please, Leanne. And we have listed, as always, awareness events taking place in the month of March, and we have publicized this to all staff and families in our monthly staff newsletter, as well as our monthly parent newsletter. March is Easter Skills Month, and this month aims to raise awareness and support for children and youth with physical disabilities through Easter Skills Month. March 3rd is World Hearing Day, and the theme for 2026 is From Community Classrooms, Hearing Care for All Children. March 16th to 20th is Neurodiversity Celebration Week, and I believe I saw it in TDSB Connects or somewhere TDSB, we did share that with our families as well. This worldwide initiative challenges stereotypes and misconceptions about neurological differences. March 21st marks World Down Syndrome Day, and the 21st day of the third month signifies the triplication of the 21st chromosome, which causes Down syndrome. And March is Epilepsy Awareness Month. We do advertise and have students participate on March 26th, Purple Day, a global movement to increase awareness about epilepsy. And I'll end here with saying that we do get from different associations, so Epilepsy Ontario, who ask us to share information. So if your association has an awareness event, please do share information with us, and we're happy to share that out. Next. And the next two slides are IPRC and psychoeducational assessment data, and they were updated and resent today in the leadership report, as there was an error in each of these. Thank you very much. That concludes my leadership. Sorry, David,
go ahead.
I apologize. We do have one more update with regards to today. TDSB Connects did go out to all of our families, and for those of you who might have seen that, there was information in there about a budget survey for the upcoming school year for families. So I'd like to pass it over to Director Stacey Zucker to speak to the budget survey. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy, and through the chair. As Nancy indicated, there is a survey that did go out today, available on our website, and will be open for approximately 2 weeks. It is to gather information about priorities for the 26-27 budget. Special education is listed as one of the areas to prioritize. Are approximately 10 different things that are listed, and survey participants are asked to prioritize their top 5. And so again, it will assist us in making some regards to budget this year. I know that last year, the survey that happened was about if you had to make reductions, where would you make it? And there was some concern about that survey. This survey is more about what are the priorities that the board should consider. I will say that other supervised boards are doing similar surveys and have these similar categories. So it's important to have some consistency and to allow, again, anybody who's completing the survey to be able to choose their top 5 of these priorities that have been listed on the survey. Thank you.
Okay, great. We've got a couple of people in line for questions, and if you have more, just signal to so that Jordan can I just want to ask a couple of questions first, if I may. I haven't read the survey, Stacey, yet, but can you just explain? So it lists 10 areas, of which one is special education, and then respondents can say which 5 of these are putting your top priorities. Is that the way it is?
Chair, that's correct. There are 10 categories